This evening, I've got a really special guest, one of our own, South Carolina alumnus and producer for the wildly popular Bussin with the Boys podcast. My guest this week is none other than JP Hovey. JP, how we doing tonight?
Let's go, Joe. I'm doing amazing, man. How could we not after last week? I appreciate you having me on, and shout out to the show, man. You're grinding in school, hitting a couple jobs, so I love to see the hustle. It's in the Gamecock blood.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely is. JP, the main question right now, what are the committees missing with this Gamecocks team this year? Not ranked in either or. What's going on, man?
Dude, personally, I know the vibe on social media is way more kind of the South Carolina fans are bummed we're not in the ranking. I think it's perfect. I don't know if it was JD Pickell or Josh Pate. One of them was saying if they leave them out of the poll now, it makes it less shocking after a few more wins when the rumors are out there of a 3-loss team maybe getting in to the playoff. Personally, I don't know if a 3-loss team gets in. A lot can happen, right? If Tennessee loses, if Georgia loses, they all have losable games left on their schedule, as do we. But I like where we're at. I think we play better going into the Vanderbilt game with no ranking. It's just another added chip on the shoulder.
Yeah, absolutely. I firmly agree. And I mean, Coach Beamer is all about culture, and the culture of this team is that of the underdog. I mean, you look at how the defense plays, it plays like, it's their last football game ever. It's really fun to watch. So as you mentioned it though, JP, heading down to Nashville, your new hometown, this weekend against Vandy, should be a pretty exciting matchup. Diego Pavia has been great. Should be a ranked matchup, but nonetheless, we're there in Nashville.
Yes, man. And Vanderbilt is dangerous. They're no team to laugh at. A couple years ago, we had Darius Rucker on Bussin with the Boys, and it just shows how fast things change because he was giving Will a hard time. Will was talking about how Nebraska and South Carolina are the same type of program, and Darius made the joke of, man, y'all gonna mess around and lose to Vanderbilt for homecoming for Nebraska. And we all got a kick out of it. 2 years later, it's like, hey, maybe we don't want to play Vanderbilt. Yeah. But I do like our matchup with them. I think they're a little bit similar to Texas A&M offensively. They've got a quarterback that can move. His passing is okay, and they've got momentum just like Texas A&M had. But our team matches up so well against that because our strength is our front seven, specifically that front four, and not just Kennard and Stewart. Hemingway, like legit everybody on that defense flies around. Gives me all the DJ Swearinger defense vibes with how hard they play, how hard they hit. So, I love the matchup. Vanderbilt is scary, but I think this team is dialed in, man. This is the next step. We needed the win versus A&M to sort of get over that hump of that the wall we've been running into. But this is the next step of it, not having a winter hangover. And I think they'll get it done. I mean, I am curious. Do you know anything more about Mazio Bennett, his injury?
Yeah, I don't know anything about his injury. I would assume he's going to be good to go, knowing Mazio. I mean, he's one of those kids where he's going to battle through. If it's anything minor, like he wants to be out on the field, I think it's worth playing him because he adds so much depth to that wide receiver room. I was going to ask you about that too. Like, some of the wide receivers, what you just thought about that room in general. But yeah, Mazio, he's a dog. I think he's going to fight through it. But if it's something that could be, a longer issue, then we'll see. But no, I think they're keeping it pretty under wraps so far.
Yeah, and it's no secret. I think that the wide receivers have probably been our weakest position group. We have a young room, which is awesome. And I do think a lot of those guys are talented. So you already know we could have the worst wide receiver room in the country. And I would never say that out loud, nor would I ever believe it. Cause I believe in our guys 100% through and through, especially Mazio Bennett, Peyton Mangrum, 2 Greenville guys. I'm from Greenville. They're from Greenville. I know those boys are built different. Peyton and I went to the same high school. Obviously, I wasn't there when he was there. But, dude, going into the year, I kind of thought that our sleeper was going to be I might even say his name wrong, but Dalvon Campbell.
Yeah.
Just because he's like a big wide receiver. He's like a 6th year, so he's got reps. Yeah. And I still wouldn't be surprised if one of these other guys that we haven't heard their name called a lot, like steps up and has a big game at some point in these last 4 games.
Yeah, absolutely. I fully expected, as did everyone, kind of Harbor to step up. But I mean, we've seen his development, kind of halt. But then also we've seen better things out of him recently. But yeah, I agree. Dale Vaughn was kind of looking to be the guy, and then out of nowhere, Mazio steps up as we kind of expected him to. I remember watching Mazio play at Greenville, and he was just the dog mentality. As soon as he stepped in between the lines, like he's competing, he's yapping. It's the whole thing because he knows he's better than you.
Right. And I've told people, I've said, I know this might sound crazy right now, but I do believe Mazio Bennett is going to be our next Deebo Samuel type receiver. He was a 3-star coming out. I think Deebo might have even been just a 2-star, but it's like they're just football players. Like, they're going to get to the point where they can throw Mazio on the end arounds. He played a bunch of different positions in high school, did a lot of different plays. So I cannot be more stoked for him. I know we have a great recruiting class coming into freaking coach, the wide receivers coach, Coach Fury.
Yeah. Yep.
Man, do you follow him on Twitter?
Oh, absolutely. He's one of my favorite coaches on staff.
The juice every morning, all caps.
Yeah.
This is the day the Lord has made. Now let's get to work, blah, blah, blah. If a fan even chimes in and he takes it the slightest way, he just bodies them of like, get in the weight room, buddy. I'm like, yes, this is a mentality we need. So I got plenty of hope for our wide receiver room. I don't like, people were all down on Nick Harbor, like you were saying. I think it's funny because against Alabama, all the fans after were like, see, we need to throw it to Nick Harbor more. He had the touchdown, da, da, da. It's like against A&M, I love that they took deep shots with him. Yeah. I don't care if he wasn't bringing the ball down. Like, it opens up so much. A&M has to cover it, and they got to cover it with 2 guys because one-on-one, he's probably burning someone. So then it opens up all these other routes you're seeing Sellers hit. So I think we're in a great spot.
Yeah, and that's the development of Lenoris too. And I agree, take deep shots, and if you catch Harbor in one-on-one, he's probably going to moss the guy. Yeah, as we saw, like he's got all that athleticism, really, really good down the field. Again, just got to work on the hands, which again is coming to him as we go, as any big wide receiver in the SEC, it just comes naturally. So JP, I wanted to ask you, Lenore Sellers was great last weekend, 13 of 27, 244, 2 touchdowns in the air, 15 carries, 106 yards, and a touchdown running. There's been a lot of hope in this fan base for Lenore Sellers. What have you thought from his debut freshman season as a starter?
It's been incredible. My favorite thing about his year is that he's gotten better every single week, which is all you can ask for out of a freshman quarterback. And not just like incrementally better, I think like leaps and bounds better every week. And from the beginning of the season, I'm sure we all try to tell people like, man, just give him time. Like, he has to get used to the speed of the game. And when he does, he's going to be a problem. I saw a stat that like the only quarterbacks to put up like over 500 yards or something of total offense against Texas A&M when they were ranked was like Joe Burrow. I hate that. It was like, 4 top SEC and NFL quarterbacks. And then Lenore Sellers. And I think he was going to be a dog in the pros. But, dude, the sacks he was avoiding, like, I know as we're all watching it, we're hyped, but I don't know if people really understand, like, how seriously athletic this dude is. Like, those plays he's making, I don't know if anybody else except maybe Jalen Milroe in the SEC is, like, evading those things and keeping the play alive.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a big guy, right? I think that was part of the recruiting package in the pitch and why Syracuse wanted him so much was, bigger guy could compete with some of those bigger linebackers in the Big Ten and ACC like that. So, I think his size is huge. And again, lowering the shoulder against A&M is probably one of the plays of the season, right? Huge. And I saw some things about offensive targeting. It's not offensive targeting when he's that much bigger and clearly lowered the shoulder. His head was straight up. Like I love seeing that out of the quarterback.
And people were talking crazy. Anytime South Carolina gets a dub, right? It's like my friend, my college roommate, actually, Jackson, he sent me a screenshot of Texas A&M message board. And it was like, is it true that the South Carolina players were like putting Vaseline on their jersey and all these things? I'm like, hey, just because we whooped you by almost 3 touchdowns does not mean you got to grasp and claw at any excuse. trust me, if we lose, I'm also probably saying wild stuff, but I'm never going that far of like, hey, they're cheating like that. I'm pretty much blaming the refs. Even if we lose by like 50, I'd be like, y'all know, man. That one call in the first quarter changed everything.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's ridiculous. And I don't know if I've been as excited about a player about Lenore Sellers that I am Lenore Sellers. Like, I try to think back at everyone because even when Connor Shaw came in, it's not like Connor Shaw was a massive grab. Like, we knew we had like a stud from Georgia that can move a little bit, but there was no like buzz around it. With Sellers, there was all this buzz, and you're kind of like, man, are we going to have another Brandon McElwain or Lorenzo Nunez and all these things? And it's like, let's see how it pans out. And you just watch him. And also a slept on thing about him is you can tell the guys love him. And that is so key in building a program. You look at like any team that wins, their quarterback is loved by all the guys. So, dude, Lenore Sellers, stock to the moon. He's the best. Like, I smile watching our games because of him.
Yeah, he's a dog, plain and simple. Really, really, really talented. And again, the thing that I've been most impressed with about Lenoris this season was how he handled Alabama. Like, yes, he overthrew that overthrow on the 2-point conversion, but no true freshman really, other than Johnny Manziel, but he was a sophomore at that, or right, kind of thing, goes in there and does that to Alabama, right? And the fact that he's even in the company with Johnny Manziel should give you a lot of hope. So huge stuff from him, and again has been as advertised and more. And I liked your point too about his development each week. It's night and day difference.
You have a chance on every single play for it to be a big play with him back there, and that's another common theme of all the good teams. It's like Carson Beck. As much as I can't stand him, the dude is like, he has a little bit of a clutch gene to him. Like, coming back on Alabama is not easy. Showing up after throwing the 3 picks against Florida and like figuring out a way to win. Jalen Milroe has a similar thing, the LSU kid. But I also think it's so key. I haven't seen enough love for Josiah Thompson, the left tackle. The kid is a freshman. The build is incredible, 6'7", 300. Everybody's stoked when he comes in. But he's another guy. Each week he's gotten better and better. And you got a freshman quarterback like Lenore Sellers and a freshman left tackle like Josiah Thompson. I mean, those are foundational pieces, studs. Like, both guys are going to be NFL guys that you don't get as a South Carolina program. Like, you don't see that often. I think with Beamer, we're going to keep reloading, which will be nice to get back in that flow. But I have to shout out Josiah Thompson because he's going against the best pass rushers in the country, and he's holding his own, and he's getting better each and every week.
Yeah, absolutely. Need some O-line love. I'll throw out another name. Kason Henry has really impressed me. Coming off of all the injury stuff, everyone was wondering, all right, is he going to be good? He's been better than everyone thought he would be. Consistent, has avoided the injuries. We knock on wood when we talk about injuries here. Kason Henry's been great. And yeah, Josiah Thompson, homegrown kid. Him and Sellers. So it's huge to recruit in the state. Shane has made that his MO since he got here and doing a great job of it so far.
Dude, Shane is building it, and he is, because a lot of people, I feel like early on, love to, outside of South Carolina world, love to say like he kind of has a Dabo vibe to him.
Yeah.
And I get like what they're saying to a certain extent, because I hate Clemson more than anybody. The fact Dabo was able to get some of the guys he got to go to Clemson is crazy. Regardless of, the Clemson fans like to say that Clemson was never paying players. I know for a fact, firsthand experience, that they were. But that's a story for another time. Yeah. But Shane has that similar, like, the kids that were going to Clemson loved Clemson, the DeAndre Hopkins of the world, Sammy Watkins, like, all great guys, T. Higgins.
Yeah.
Now we're seeing that at South Carolina, and Beamer is doing it in what I believe is a way better way, a way cooler way, and he's getting kind of more savages than Clemson had. So, I'm stoked with Beamer. I've loved everything he's done since he's gotten in, even through the low times. It's like, people don't understand how hard it can be to win at South Carolina, and it's not going to be a 1-year turnaround like some of these other schools. And Indiana did it. Yeah, Indiana hadn't played a ranked team all year. I think Indiana's good. Say Jim Harbaugh, He went to Michigan. They were winning games, but they were not getting over the hump. And that's Jim Harbaugh. It took him 7 years to get them a national championship. One of the best coaches ever. So
They
I'm
didn't
all in
have
on Beamer.
They didn't, yeah, exactly. They didn't have the October of LSU, Ole Miss, and Alabama. Not
Right.
quite the same schedule.
Man, at all. And last week, you know, all the videos coming out with Beamer. My favorite video had to be the God tier was obviously singing the Fantasia song to his
Yeah.
wife. But my next favorite one was them stopping the bus for those 3 old ladies that were holding the sign out. Like, oh my gosh. Like seeing how the players responded when the ladies got onto the bus and they're all smiling, dapping them up, and hearing the ladies' reactions after, like how they were blushing.
Yeah.
Like he's just such a good leader of men. And he's setting these guys up so well for the future. And in that video with his wife, you see like the stud guys are there in the middle of the circle. If
Yeah.
there's not culture, you're usually probably going to have like the walk-ons around there that are always going to be hyping up coach. But like Nick Emanwari, he's going to the Boys and Girls Club, donating $5K. Like,
Yep.
Beamer is like building so much more than a football program. And I hope the fans like see all of that stuff as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And hat tip to Justin King. We are big Justin King fans on this show as
Yeah.
well. And everything that he's been able to do. Those videos are incredible. And then also, I mean, the culture. Yeah, it's just running right through it. And you mentioned JP, like a lot of guys that want to be at South Carolina, like dogs that want to be here.
Mhm.
The first name that rings a bell is Dylan Stewart, right? I mean, he could have gone to Ohio State. And I remember during his recruitment, him telling me that, you know, hey, it feels like a factory, right? They're giving me the same pitch they give to every other 5-star. Meanwhile, at South Carolina, you've got Sterling Lucas, who has been to the NFL, knows talent when he sees it, and is back home in South Carolina, an Orangeburg native, right?
Right.
And really made this place home. That's a hard pitch to beat when you're pitching to a kid. It's like, hey, here's all this NFL experience now. Come down to the SEC and eat.
Dude, you're so right. And I love when people try to get in, like, because every week Dylan Stewart goes viral because PFF tweets about him, whatever, and everyone's like, oh yeah, he won't be at South Carolina for long. I'm like, y'all do realize he was the #1 recruit in the country until he committed to us. Then they knocked him to like number 5. The bag was there for him.
Oh yeah.
And we also gave him a good amount of money because I promise you, if we didn't, he's not going to come. And I believe he's going to stay. Like I have no question about it because I also think he loves the locker room too.
Mm-hmm.
So the NIL world, I think we're good with Dylan Stewart. We're good with Lenore Sellers. Like they're building a winning team. We'll be all right.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I mean, I wanted to ask you about Clayton White and this defense before we kind of put a bow on this thing. This defense has done a full 180 with the front 7. What has impressed you this year about Clayton White and the ability to, you know, actually have his defense the way he wants it?
Dude, the scheme of the pass rush has been incredible. Like I don't really remember a time in the last even like 8 years when we're moving guys around as much as we are. And we have so many. Like even when Stewart and Kennard come out, it's like we're not having much of a drop off.
Oh, yeah.
And so I love anytime they're kind of just disguising, like Stewart, he's always going to be on the edge, but so many of his sacks have come when he just comes around the tackle, they stunt somebody, and then he's in. And then the linebackers have played awesome also. But scheming the D lineup makes everybody look better. And I mean, we have the second highest rated defense in the country.
Yeah.
And people were calling for Clayton White's head. And it goes back again to the culture. Like these things take time, especially at South Carolina. Like we're recruiting against Georgia and Alabama and all of these top teams. But the NIL world, I think, has also exposed coaching. And so it has played in our favor. We're like, we might not have as big a NIL fund as whatever team, but we have the coaches. And you wait 3 years, they develop, they get their systems in, and it's successful. Same thing.
Yeah.
Hopefully Loggins can kind of keep calling some good plays, but